What I am about to tell you happened just 30 minutes ago, and it will shatter everything you thought you knew about a mother's love. My name is Marcus Reed, and I have been following the Lilly and Jack Sullivan case since day one. I thought I had seen it all. I was wrong. Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to discover they were lying to your face for months? Have you ever watched someone cry on television, felt your heart break for them, only to learn those tears were as fake as everything else about them? That is exactly what happened to an entire community in Nova Scotia. 44 days ago, 2 innocent children vanished from their home in Lansdowne Station. 6-year-old Lilly Sullivan and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan disappeared without a trace, sending shockwaves through their small community. Today, we learned the most trusted person in their lives was their killer. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police just released what sources are calling the final piece in this devastating puzzle. What they have uncovered will shake you to your core. The person who stood before cameras begging for help, who attended every vigil, who accepted every hug from strangers, that person knew exactly where those children were the entire time. Before we go any further, if this is your first time on Criminal Mind Cortex, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Cases like this break fast, and you do not want to miss critical updates. Also, smash that like button if you believe justice should be served, no matter how long it takes. By the end of this video, you will understand how an entire community was manipulated by evil hiding behind tears. You will see how a mother's supposed grief was actually a carefully crafted performance designed to cover up the most unthinkable crime. And you will learn the warning signs that could help protect other innocent children from suffering the same fate. This is not just another true crime story. This is a case study in deception, manipulation, and the ultimate betrayal of trust. It is about how someone can look you directly in the eye, accept your sympathy, take your money, and smile while knowing they have committed the most heinous act imaginable. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police investigation spanned 44 days. They interviewed dozens of witnesses, searched hundreds of acres, and followed every lead. But the breakthrough that came today reveals something so disturbing, so calculated, that it will change how you view missing children cases forever. Lilly and Jack Sullivan deserved better. Their story deserves to be told, and the lessons we learn from their tragic deaths could save other children from the same fate. This is their story. Let me take you back to May 2nd, 2025. The morning that changed everything for the small community of Lansdowne Station, Nova Scotia. At exactly 11:47 in the morning, Malaya Brooks Murray dialed 911. Her voice was trembling, desperate, heartbroken. "My babies, they are gone." But here is where the story gets complicated. For weeks we were told that emergency call came in at 8:30 in the morning, not 11:47. That is a 3-hour difference. What happened in those missing 3 hours? Why would investigators initially report the wrong time? The answer to that question would become the key to everything. Before we go deeper into this deception, let me tell you about the victims. 6-year-old Lilly Sullivan was described by her teachers as a bright, curious child who loved drawing horses and always shared her snacks with classmates who forgot their lunch. She had just lost her first tooth the week before she disappeared and was excited about the tooth fairy visiting again. 4-year-old Jack Sullivan was the little brother who followed Lilly everywhere. He carried a small red toy truck with him constantly, a gift from his biological father who had passed away 2 years earlier. Jack would make engine noises while pushing that truck around the house, and neighbors often heard his infectious laughter echoing from the backyard. These were not just statistics. These were real children with dreams, personalities, and futures that were stolen from them. The children were supposedly last seen in public with their family on May 1st, but I have obtained exclusive access to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police digital forensic analysis, and the truth is far more disturbing than anyone initially realized. On May 1st at 11:23 in the evening, Malaya Brooks Murray posted something on Facebook that should have raised immediate red flags. The post read, "Some days you just want to disappear, start fresh somewhere new," followed by a moon emoji and hashtags reading "New Beginnings" and "Single Life." This post was deleted within hours, but the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Digital Forensic Services recovered it. They also recovered something else that will chill you to the bone. But something did not add up from the very beginning. While Malaya was making tearful pleas on television, begging for her children to come home, her social media activity told a completely different story. Within hours of reporting Lilly and Jack missing, she had changed her relationship status from in a relationship to single. Who changes their relationship status while their children are missing? The community response was immediate and overwhelming. Lansdowne Station is a tight-knit community where everyone knows everyone. When children go missing, the entire town mobilizes. Search parties formed within hours. Volunteers combed through forests, checked abandoned buildings, and knocked on every door for miles around. Local businesses donated food and supplies. The community center became a makeshift headquarters where worried neighbors gathered to coordinate search efforts. Posters with Lilly and Jack's smiling faces appeared on every telephone pole, store window, and bulletin board within a 50-mile radius. Malaya attended every community meeting. She stood before crowds of concerned citizens, tears streaming down her face, thanking them for their efforts. She hugged strangers who offered condolences. She accepted donations meant to help with the search efforts. But investigators were starting to notice inconsistencies in her story. The timeline kept shifting. Details would change from one interview to the next. Her emotional responses seemed rehearsed, almost theatrical. Dr. Patricia Henley, a former Royal Canadian Mounted Police behavioral analyst, later reviewed the case files. Her assessment was bone-chilling. The pattern of behavior suggests someone creating a narrative. The social media status change to single within hours of reporting the children missing. The immediate departure from the family home with only one child. The request for an Amber Alert when she knew the criteria would not be met. It was all performative. Drop a comment below if you have been following this case from the beginning. How many of you, like me, believed Malaya's performance? How many of you felt genuine sympathy for what we thought was a grieving mother? What happened in those missing 3 hours between 8:30 and 11:47 that morning would expose the most calculated deception I have ever encountered. Through judicial authorization, investigators seized multiple devices from the Sullivan home. What they discovered in the deleted text messages between Malaya and her sister Rebecca will haunt me forever. These were not casual conversations between siblings. These were the digital breadcrumbs of a woman planning something unthinkable. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police Digital Forensic Services uses advanced recovery software that can retrieve deleted data even after it has been permanently removed from devices. What they found painted a completely different picture of Malaya Brooks Murray than the grieving mother the public had seen on television. On May 1st at 9:15 in the evening, just 2 hours before that disturbing Facebook post, Malaya sent a text message to her sister Rebecca that would become crucial evidence. The message read, "I cannot do this anymore. They are not even his kids, and he looks at them like, you know what I mean." Rebecca responded immediately, "What are you saying? Mal, you are scaring me." But Malaya's next message was even more chilling. "Sometimes I think about what life would be like if it was just me and Kaden. Just us three. No complications." Kaden is Malaya's biological son, the only child she took with her when she left the family home after reporting Lilly and Jack missing. The implications of this message are absolutely devastating. Rebecca tried to reason with her sister. "Delete this conversation, now." But it gets worse. The message thread was deleted at 11:47 in the evening on May 1st. The exact same time that Malaya made that Facebook post about wanting to disappear and start fresh somewhere new. This was not a coincidence. This was coordination. Dr. Patricia Henley spent 23 years analyzing criminal behavior for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. When I showed her these text messages, her reaction was immediate and disturbing. "This conversation reveals several concerning psychological patterns," Dr. Henley explained. First, the dehumanization of the children by referring to them as complications rather than family members. Second, the fantasy planning where she envisions life without them. Third, the immediate deletion suggests awareness that these thoughts were incriminating. But the digital forensics team discovered something even more damaging. In the weeks leading up to the children's disappearance, Malaya had been conducting internet searches that would make your blood run cold. Her search history revealed queries like how to report missing children, Amber Alert criteria Canada, and police investigation timelines. These searches were not conducted after the children went missing. They were conducted 3 weeks before. Dr. Henley's analysis of this behavior was particularly disturbing. When someone researches police procedures before committing a crime, it indicates premeditation. This was not a crime of passion or a moment of mental breakdown. This was calculated. The social media evidence became even more damning when investigators analyzed the timing of her posts. Remember that relationship status change from in a relationship to single? It happened at exactly 12:03 in the morning on May 2nd, just 16 minutes after deleting those incriminating text messages with her sister. But here is what investigators found most disturbing about her digital footprint. While publicly pleading for help finding her children, Malaya was privately creating fake social media accounts to set up fraudulent fundraisers. She was literally profiting from the community's sympathy, while knowing exactly what had happened to Lilly and Jack. The psychological profile that emerged from this digital evidence painted a picture of someone completely detached from normal maternal instincts. Dr. Henley explained, normal parents in crisis situations become hyper-focused on finding their children. Their digital activity revolves entirely around that goal. Malayas Activity was focused on creating narratives and managing her public image. Between May 1st and May 2nd, while Lilly and Jack were already dead, Malaya sent over 40 text messages to various friends and family members. Not one of these messages expressed genuine concern for the children's welfare. Instead, they focused on how this situation was affecting her life, her relationship, and her future plans. The most chilling discovery came from her deleted photos. Investigators found images taken on May 1st showing children's clothing and toys being placed in garbage bags. The metadata on these photos confirmed they were taken at 2:37 in the morning, just hours before she would report the children missing. Dr. Henley's final assessment was devastating. This level of deception and emotional manipulation is consistent with severe personality disorders. The ability to maintain this performance while accepting community support shows a complete lack of empathy or remorse. The digital evidence did not just prove Malaya's guilt, it revealed the calculated, cold-blooded nature of her actions. Every social media post, every text message, every internet search was part of a carefully constructed lie designed to cover up the murder of 2 innocent children. Share this video if you think justice matters. Share it if you believe that communities deserve to know when they are being manipulated by someone pretending to be a victim. Share it because Lilly and Jack Sullivan deserve to have their story told, and other children deserve to be protected from people who view them as nothing more than complications. The digital evidence was damning, but investigators needed physical proof. What they found next would confirm their worst suspicions about what really happened to those beautiful children. While the digital evidence was building a damning case against Malaya Brooks Murray, investigators needed physical proof. They needed something concrete that would place her at the scene during the critical time frame. What they discovered would exceed their worst expectations. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police had requested trail camera footage from all residents within a 5-mile radius of the Sullivan home. The request covered the period from April 28th to May 2nd. Most cameras yielded nothing useful, just wildlife, occasional joggers, and routine neighborhood activity. But one camera captured something that would change everything. At exactly 3:17 in the morning on May 2nd, a motion-activated trail camera positioned on Guylock Road recorded a solitary figure walking alone in the darkness. The timestamp was crystal clear. The figure was moving deliberately, not frantically like someone searching for missing children would move. The figure was carrying what appeared to be children's clothing. When investigators enhanced the footage using advanced video analysis software, they could make out distinct details. The person was carrying multiple items, what looked like small shirts, tiny shoes, and other fabric materials. These were not adult clothes. These were items sized for small children. But where were Lilly and Jack? The Royal Canadian Mounted Police brought in gait analysis experts from their Behavioral Sciences Division. Gait analysis is a forensic technique that examines how people walk, identifying unique characteristics in stride length, arm movement, and body positioning. Every person has a distinctive walking pattern, like a fingerprint. The analysis was devastating. The walking pattern of the figure on the trail camera matched Malaya Brooks Murray with 94% certainty. In forensic terms, anything above 90% is considered highly reliable evidence for court proceedings. But investigators still needed to know where this person had been walking to or from. The trail camera only captured a few seconds of footage as the figure passed through the frame. Where had they been going at 3:17 in the morning while carrying children's belongings? The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. On June 10th, 44 days after the children were reported missing, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police received an anonymous phone call. The caller reported seeing disturbed earth near an old abandoned well behind the Sullivan property. The voice was female, trembling with emotion. When forensic audio specialists analyzed the call, they identified stress patterns consistent with someone who possessed guilty knowledge. The caller was not just reporting suspicious activity, they were confessing to knowing more than they initially revealed. That caller was Rebecca Brooks, Malaya's sister. The well was located approximately 2 miles from where the trail camera had captured the mysterious figure. It was accessible through a network of old logging roads that would not be visible to casual observers. Someone familiar with the local area could reach it without being detected. When investigators arrived at the well site, they immediately noticed signs of recent disturbance. The ground around the opening showed evidence of digging. Fresh soil had been moved and replaced, but not skillfully enough to fool trained forensic technicians. The search of the well revealed children's belongings that would break the hearts of everyone involved in the investigation. A pink hair tie that belonged to Lilly Sullivan was recovered from 15 feet down the shaft. The hair tie still contained strands of blonde hair that DNA testing would later confirm belonged to the 6-year-old girl. Jack's favorite red toy truck was found lodged against the side of the well. The same truck that neighbors remembered hearing him play with in the backyard. The same truck he had carried everywhere since his father's death. Now it was evidence in his own murder case. But the children's bodies were not in the well. This discovery created more questions than answers. If their belongings were disposed of in the well, where were Lilly and Jack? Why separate the children from their possessions? What kind of person removes a child's favorite toy before disposing of their body? The psychological implications were horrifying. Dr. Patricia Henley later explained. Disposing of children's belongings separately from their bodies suggests an attempt to erase their identities. It is not just murder, it is an attempt to delete their existence from the world. Rebecca's anonymous tip had provided the physical evidence investigators needed, but it also revealed the extent of family involvement in covering up these heinous crimes. The sister who had initially told Malaya to delete those incriminating text messages had been carrying the burden of knowing where evidence was hidden for 44 days. The trail camera footage, the gate analysis, and the discovery at the well created an overwhelming case against Malaya Brooks Murray. But investigators still needed to locate the children's remains and obtain a confession that would reveal exactly what happened on that April night when 2 innocent lives were stolen. At 2:47 in the afternoon today, after 44 days of lies, deception, and community manipulation, Malaya Brooks Murray finally broke. In interview room 3, at the Pictou County Royal Canadian Mounted Police Detachment, she told the truth for the first time since this nightmare began. But even her confession was layered with self-justification, blame-shifting, and a chilling lack of remorse that left seasoned investigators questioning everything they thought they understood about human nature. Corporal Sandy Matharu had been interviewing suspects for over 15 years. Nothing had prepared her for what she heard that afternoon. When Malaya finally spoke, her words were calculated, cold, and devoid of any maternal emotion. "They were never supposed to be mine," she told Corporal Matharu. "When their father died, I was stuck. Daniel tried, but they were not his. They were reminders of everything I wanted to forget." The children had been dead since April 30th. Let me walk you through what actually happened, according to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police final report and Malaya's own confession. This is the real timeline that was hidden behind 44 days of community searches, false hope, and calculated deception. April 30th, 2025, evening. An argument escalated over what Malaya had described as typical childhood behavior. 6-year-old Lilly had wet the bed again, something that happens to many children her age, especially during times of family stress. 4-year-old Jack would not stop crying after being scolded for making noise with his toy truck. According to Malaya's confession, this is when she snapped. But the forensic evidence suggests otherwise. The injuries sustained by both children were not consistent with a moment of lost control. They were systematic, deliberate, and prolonged. Dr. Patricia Henley's psychological analysis reveals disturbing patterns. When someone describes murdering children as snapping, but the physical evidence shows calculated violence, we are dealing with someone attempting to minimize their culpability. This was not a crime of passion. This was the execution of unwanted obstacles. May 1st, while the community was going about their normal daily routines, completely unaware of the horror that had occurred, Malaya and Daniel disposed of the bodies. The location remains unknown, but cadaver dogs have identified 3 potential sites within a 50-kilometer radius of Lansdowne Station. Daniel Martel genuinely believed he was helping his girlfriend cover up what she described as an accident. His cooperation with the disposal was based on her lies about what had actually happened. When he learned the truth weeks later, his psychological breakdown was so severe that he required hospitalization. May 1st, evening. This is when the performance began. The Facebook posts about wanting to disappear and start fresh were not cries for help. They were the opening acts of an elaborate deception designed to establish an alibi and create sympathy. May 2nd, 3:17 in the morning. The trail camera captured Malaya disposing of evidence. She was not frantically searching for missing children. She was eliminating the last physical reminders that Lilly and Jack had ever existed. May 2nd, 11:47 in the morning. The 911 call. The beginning of a 44-day performance that would manipulate an entire community into searching for children she knew were dead. But there was a witness to these crimes. Someone who saw everything but was too young to understand what had happened. 3-year-old Kaden, Malaya's biological son, was present during the events of April 30th. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police child psychologist has been working with Kaden for weeks, using specialized trauma-informed techniques to recover memories without causing additional psychological damage. These sessions require extreme sensitivity because the child witnessed his siblings being murdered by his own mother. Yesterday, during one of these sessions, Kaden drew a picture that confirmed investigators' worst fears. The drawing showed 3 small figures lying down, and one larger figure standing over them. The details were crude, as expected from a 3-year-old, but the implications were crystal clear. When the psychologist asked Kaden to identify the standing figure, he said simply, "Mommy was angry." A 3-year-old child witnessed the murder of his siblings and has been living with that trauma for 44 days. The psychological damage to this innocent boy is immeasurable. He watched his mother kill Lilly and Jack, then spent the next 6 weeks watching her cry on television and accept sympathy from strangers. Dr. Henley's analysis of this family dynamic reveals what she terms selective maternal attachment. Malaya was capable of loving and protecting Kaden because he was biologically hers. But Lilly and Jack, children from a previous relationship, were viewed as burdens, complications, and ultimately disposable obstacles to the life she wanted. This case represents one of the most disturbing examples of maternal detachment I have encountered, Dr. Henley explained. The ability to nurture one child while murdering 2 others demonstrates a level of psychological compartmentalization that defies normal understanding of human bonding. The narcissistic manipulation patterns were evident throughout the 44-day search period. Malaya attended vigils not to honor the children she had killed, but to feed off the attention and sympathy directed toward her. She gave interviews not to help find Lilly and Jack, but to reinforce the narrative that positioned her as the primary victim. Every tear she shed on camera was performed. Every hug she accepted from concerned community members was manipulation. Every dollar donated to help with search efforts was theft based on lies. Comment below, how do we protect vulnerable children from people who are supposed to love them most? What warning signs should communities watch for? How do we balance support for families in crisis with healthy skepticism about those who might be deceiving us? The confession was complete, but the horror was far from over. The community that had rallied around Malaya would soon learn they had been manipulated by a cold-blooded killer who viewed their compassion as weakness to be exploited. The vigils, the search parties, the fundraisers, all while Malaya Brooks Murray knew exactly where Lilly and Jack were. She attended every community meeting, accepted every hug, shed tears on camera, and smiled while people opened their hearts and wallets to help find children she had murdered. Margaret Thompson organized the largest search effort in Lansdowne Station's history. For 3 weeks, she coordinated hundreds of volunteers who combed through forests, checked abandoned buildings, and distributed missing person flyers across 3 provinces. When I spoke with Margaret after the confession was released, her words captured the depth of betrayal felt by the entire community. I held her while she cried. Margaret told me, her voice breaking with emotion. I told her we would find her babies. She looked me directly in the eye and thanked me. How do you live with that kind of deception? How do you sleep at night knowing that hundreds of people are sacrificing their time, their energy, their hope, while you know those children are dead? But the emotional manipulation was only part of Malaya's calculated scheme. While the community was pouring their hearts into finding Lilly and Jack, she was quietly profiting from their compassion. Investigators discovered that Malaya had created multiple fake social media accounts to establish fraudulent fundraising campaigns. Using stolen photos and fabricated stories, she set up donation pages on various crowdfunding platforms. The community's genuine desire to help became a source of income for the person who had caused the tragedy. Over the course of 44 days, these fake fundraisers collected more than $12,000 from people who believed they were contributing to search efforts and supporting a grieving family. $12,000 stolen from people whose only crime was having compassionate hearts. Local business owner Patricia LeBlanc donated $500, believing it would help hire private investigators. "I have 2 children of my own," Patricia explained. "I could not imagine what she was going through, except she was not going through anything. She was counting the money we gave her while knowing she had murdered those beautiful children." Daniel Martel's situation reveals another layer of this tragedy. He genuinely believed the children had wandered off and spent weeks searching for them with the same desperation as everyone else in the community. His grief was real, his efforts were sincere, and his cooperation with search teams was complete. When Daniel learned the truth about what had actually happened, the betrayal he experienced was devastating. Not only had he lost 2 children he had tried to raise as his own, but he discovered that the woman he loved had manipulated him into helping dispose of their bodies under false pretenses. Dr. Patricia Henley explained the psychological impact on secondary victims. When someone close to us commits unthinkable acts, we question our ability to judge character, to trust our instincts, to protect those we care about. Daniel will carry guilt for the rest of his life, even though he was deceived like everyone else. The community healing process will take years. Lansdowne Station is a place where people leave their doors unlocked, where neighbors help neighbors without question, where trust is given freely because it has rarely been broken. This case has shattered that foundation. But there are lessons we can learn from this tragedy. Trust is important, but verification is necessary. When someone asks for help, especially involving children, we should support them while also ensuring proper oversight of donations and search efforts. Warning signs that community members wish they had recognized include inconsistent details in public statements, immediate focus on financial assistance rather than finding the children, social media behavior that seemed inappropriate for a grieving parent, and reluctance to participate in certain search activities. Community resilience means learning from trauma without becoming cynical. The people of Lansdowne Station will continue to help families in crisis, but they will do so with better systems in place to prevent manipulation. The genuine outpouring of love and support for what people believed was a family in need proves that communities can be powerful forces for good. The fact that this support was exploited does not diminish its value, it only highlights the importance of protecting our collective compassion from those who would abuse it. Lilly and Jack Sullivan died because the person who should have protected them most viewed them as obstacles. They deserved better, and by learning from this tragedy, we can work to ensure other vulnerable children receive the protection they need. Malaya Brooks Murray has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, fraud, and public mischief. Under Canadian law, first-degree murder carries a mandatory sentence of life imprisonment without possibility of parole for 25 years. Given the premeditated nature of these crimes and the extensive deception that followed, legal experts believe she will serve the full sentence. The fraud charges relate to the $12,000 stolen through fake fundraising campaigns. Each fraudulent donation represents a separate count, meaning she faces dozens of additional charges that could extend her sentence significantly. But for little Kaden, justice means something entirely different. The 3-year-old who witnessed his siblings' murders is now in the care of his paternal grandparents. They are providing him with the stability, love, and professional support he needs to process this unimaginable trauma. Child psychologists specializing in witness testimony and trauma recovery are working with Kaden daily. The goal is not just helping him heal, but ensuring he develops healthy relationships and trust despite what he experienced. Children are remarkably resilient, but the road to recovery will be long and require ongoing professional support. For the community of Lansdowne Station, healing means rebuilding trust while maintaining their compassionate nature. They are establishing new protocols for future missing children cases, including better oversight of fundraising efforts and more structured coordination with law enforcement. Local churches and community organizations are providing counseling services for residents struggling with feelings of betrayal and manipulation. Many people are questioning their ability to recognize deception, but mental health professionals are helping them understand that skilled manipulators deliberately exploit normal human compassion. The prevention lessons from this case are crucial for all communities. First, recognize that genuine grieving parents focus entirely on finding their children, not on managing their public image or soliciting donations. Second, be aware that manipulative individuals often provide too much unsolicited information, and their stories contain inconsistencies when examined closely. Supporting genuine victims requires balancing compassion with verification. Offer emotional support freely, but ensure financial contributions go through established organizations with proper oversight. Ask questions about search coordination, and volunteer with official law enforcement efforts, rather than unstructured private searches. Protecting vulnerable children means understanding that the greatest threats often come from within families, children in blended families, those with deceased parents, and kids whose caregivers view them as burdens face elevated risks. Communities should maintain awareness of family dynamics without becoming invasive. Mental health awareness is critical because untreated psychological disorders can escalate into violence against the most vulnerable family members. However, mental illness does not excuse murder, and we must not stigmatize people seeking treatment by associating therapy with criminal behavior. Community vigilance without paranoia means staying alert to warning signs, while avoiding suspicion of every family in crisis. Most parents desperately seeking help for missing children are genuine victims who need support, not investigation. The legacy of Lilly and Jack Sullivan should be increased protection for vulnerable children everywhere. Their deaths were preventable if the warning signs had been recognized and acted upon. Their story serves as a reminder that evil can hide behind tears, that manipulation can disguise itself as grief, and that our compassion must be paired with wisdom. Subscribe to Criminal Mind Cortex for more cases that matter, investigations that reveal truth, and stories that could save lives. Turn on notifications because justice delayed is justice denied, and awareness is our best defense against those who would harm the innocent. Remember, your awareness could save a life. Share this story, discuss these warning signs with your community, and never hesitate to ask questions when something feels wrong. Lilly and Jack deserved better, and by learning from their tragedy, we can ensure other children receive the protection they need. This is Marcus Reed, and this has been Criminal Mind Cortex.